Thank you everyone for coming in for April Discord Town Hall. We're here with Nayef, one of our directors, as well as Gideon and Haluk. How about a short introduction from Nayef about what your role is and what you do?
Sure thing, sure thing. So, hey everybody, I'm Nayef, aka Habibi. I'm the operations director here at Nyan Heroes. I've been with the team a bit over a year now. Pretty much touch most of the business outside of the actual game development side. So I work very, very closely with Max and others to make sure that the overall strategy and the business operations of the organization are flowing nicely. And I guess I'll pass it to Gideon to talk about his role.
Great, great. Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm the technical director of engineering at Nyan Heroes. So I lead the engineering team, being in the game industry for over 12 years, being at places like Ubisoft, EA, THQ. We love the project we're working on. So yeah, I handle all the technical logistics, kind of like things like how do we set up our network environment, our blockchain environment, the game engine, etc. So yeah, I'm pretty much working tandem with the design and art team to try to bring the vision to life.
And you also worked on one of my favorite games I played very recently, Rainbow Six Siege. So
Ah, yes, 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 yeah. That was definitely a fun experiment. It's one of the highlights of my career. We were kind of like one of the first to implement cloud gaming and this corridor shooting. So glad that there's a fan here. Yeah.
yeah. And how about you, Haluk? Let's hear it from you.
Hey all. So I'm Haluk. I'm the game director. I'm working on the vision of the game with Max and communicating it to the team. Among the game vision responsibilities, I'm also helping mentoring the team in how to realize the game and the gameplay. That's, I guess, as brief as I can be.
I'd like to thank everyone for the introductions, and let's just hop into. So let's hear from Nayef on what we think about the quarter sentiment, some of the GDC highlights, and just kind of start things off with there.
Just to kind of kick that off, like this might sound a bit repetitive or familiar to those that have been with us for a while, but I always like to kind of start from the beginning, give some background context for those that are new. So we are ending the first quarter of 2023 with a lot of positive momentum and especially excitement coming off of GDC. We have a very clear product roadmap for the remainder of the year, leading up to an alpha release in December. I am actually going to. I have a bigger announcement that I'm going to wait a little bit for. But yeah, stay
Ooh.
tuned for that. So we'll talk a little bit more about that roadmap. But really, what we're doing right now is we are doubling down on our vision, which is really threefold. So the first part of our vision is building a love letter to cats. We are hyper focused on developing an immersive IP driven shooter with a strong narrative and a strong story. We really want to capture the hearts of players using these adorable, whimsical cats that are engaged in fierce competitive battle. The second part of our vision is pushing the creative boundaries using bleeding edge tech. So, starting with Unreal Engine 5 to create the most immersive experience for our players and our community, to using blockchain technology to empower ownership, to empower player governed competitions, to also exploring different AI tools that we can use to boost the type and the quality of UGC that can be created by our communities. So, our focus right here is using these bleeding edge tech to be able to create a best in class experience that is also unique within the shooter genre. And then lastly, we are committed to creating a real world impact. And that both includes continuing to donate to animal supported causes with an emphasis towards our feline friends because we love them. Also, we're committed to leading our internal development team with empathy, with compassion, and really focusing on an anti crunch culture. We're here for the long run, so we don't want to burn our teams out. And GDC really validated that this vision of the love letter to cats, pushing the creative boundaries with high level tech, and being committed to having a real world impact is well focused, it's well timed, and it was also well received by gamers and investors alike, which kind of segues really nicely into our GDC update. So, we recently, nine of us from seven countries, including our entire senior leadership team and Max, all got together for GDC in San Francisco, California. And then we actually stayed an extra 5 or 6 days together in some rented houses so that we can continue to work together and have some face-to-face meetings that we really wanted to have. GDC went really, really well. I'll start high level and then I'll focus it down to how it impacts us in Nyan Heroes in the game. So the first thing that I will say is based on what I didn't attend GDC last year, but I was following GDC quite closely. And based off of everything that I saw and read about GDC last year, blockchain was the hottest topic of the year last year, and it was quite controversial. There was definitely players and people on both sides of the aisle arguing their points. This year, it didn't feel like that. It felt like blockchain gaming was here and it was welcomed and it was received. Nearly every major studio, as well as all of the indie studios and a lot of the games that are launching, all had some form of a blockchain component to them. They're all using it slightly differently in nuance, but the fact is it does feel like the gaming development community has really jumped on board with blockchain. So that's huge. And where last year blockchain was the main topic, this year AI and gaming was the main topic. And so we were really happy to be able to present our own vision for how we can start to include AI into the game, which was again well received. So all in all, GDC was great at the high level. Now focusing onto our studio, we went to GDC with a goal of having 25 meetings with investors, publishers, and partners with a 25% follow-up rate. So we were hoping to have 5 follow-ups coming out of GDC. Well, we actually didn't get 25 meetings with investors and publishers. We got 16, but we got a 100% follow-up rate. So we have 16 follow-ups coming out of GDC, which was really, really exciting. A lot of the feedback that we have, so some of the positive feedback was that people really loved the unique IP, the cute and appealing stylized art of the cats and the mechs. They felt that it was different from other shooters, mainly in terms of our game design. And there was 3 things that they focused on. One is it was a battle royale with progression, both the in-game, the in-session progression, as well as account progression that really rewards players for continuing to come back and play the game. That was absolutely a hit. People really love to see the progression within the game and the accounts. The other part of the game design that was really a smashing hit was the cat locomotion. So hopefully everybody here in this room has seen the video that we released in the Inside Nikovia letter. I believe it was last week, but we showed that during our meetings with investors and partners. And as soon as the cat started climbing on the wall, there was always a physical reaction of the person in the room, like, whoa, whoa, I didn't expect that. They absolutely loved that. And they loved it more when they got their hands on the obstacle course. So they got to play it. And then they also loved the responsiveness of the character, the controls, the camera, the 3 Cs. For those that are not familiar with the 3 Cs in game development, that's how you feel when you control the game. It's how you interact with the basic core mechanics of the game. And they all thought that the responsiveness of the characters were really, really great. They loved the AI UGC creator tool that we were exploring. We'll talk a little bit about that later. And then lastly, the economy. We had a few questions about how we are doing our tokenomics, how our economy works. And so we got to explain our vision for how to create a sustainable economy. And that was received really, really well because it was just simple and appealing. People just understood it really, really nicely. That was all the positive feedback. We didn't actually get any negative feedback. So negative feedback for us would be, this game isn't fun. I don't see the appeal. The IP isn't attractive. And we got 0% of that. At GDC, there are literally hundreds of games there, fundraising, launching, partnering, and many of those games are at a stage where they're shippable as a beta or even close to their launch. So relative to those games, we are pretty early. And most of our feedback was that we are still early. So for us, really what we're focusing on right now is refining the product further and really focusing on getting traction in sentiment metrics. And here's where the big announcement's hopefully going to come in. So we want to get real feedback from our players and our community. Therefore, I am excited to announce that prior to our alpha release in Q4 of this year, we will be looking to release some mini games. So the way we're defining mini games are these are going to be game modes from the actual Nyan Heroes game we want to share with you, and we want your feedback. The feedback that we get from you is going to impact if and how the feature makes it into the final launch of the game. So we'd love for all of you to get your hands on it, compete against each other, play it, have fun, and most importantly, please, please, please share your feedback with us because it is going to inform the future design of the game. So I can't tell you exactly what we're going to be releasing or when, but stay tuned on our social channels and we'll finalize our mini game launch plan and we will be giving you some updates so soon.
Very exciting news. Hopefully, y'all caught that. If you think you can beat me, go ahead. I challenge you. I know everyone's excited for those mini game tests that we're gonna be running, but I'm very excited for what Nayef said, where AI is becoming really popular and the main focus in how we're kind of experimenting it within our game. So I'm very excited to see where that's gonna be going, where that's going to be heading, and how that's going to be implemented not only in our game but other games as well. And I think it will just be another revolutionary piece to gaming. A lot of amazing stuff, and it sounded like you had a great time at GDC. I want to hear from everyone else as well on their experiences at GDC. So, what are some of the biggest trends or themes, or any speakers or game developers that you met with that kind of piqued everyone's interest around here?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was meeting a lot of old friends and making new friends in the networking session and the after parties, meeting people personally as well. And it's the AI search Nayef mentioned is a big trend. Blockchain, I'm not sure if I would call it a trend. It's so well integrated this year. So rather than a trend, it's just now basically it seems like all the developers are embracing it, at least visibly, and that they are really backing it. There were a lot of cool things to see there. I had some technical discussions, some other developers in other studios as well. It was generally a very positive GDC in terms of blockchain. Like I said, AI is looking like everybody is right now. They're exploring into how they can incorporate AI into game development, but also into the games themselves, like the gameplay itself. So that was a major thing. A lot of the talks were about AI at GDC, and yeah.
I can't wait to have our own Nyan AI. Maybe it can be in the game as a little companion that talks to us. But yeah, let's see where things will go. But yeah, anything you want to add on to that, Gideon, from your GDC experience?
Yeah, sure. So I know this GDC, just like my colleague said, it was very exciting to see all these new tech that were coming up. I was able to attend some of the talks to try to see how people are solving different spaces, like, things from how they're trying to solve the problem of how to integrate AI properly into a game. Because, we all love talking about AI, but it's we need to make a server at this stage to run it. We're talking about how people have made leaps and strides into blockchain and the clever ways that they're actually using it to cross that bridge. And even back to like basics, like one. So it's like the people out there and see how people are trying to solve the common problem. And the cool thing about GDC is that when we all get there, we're not rivals. We're all just there to just share information, help each other out. So that was a very positive experience.
You cut out a little bit, but yeah, that's good to hear that. Like you said, not everyone's there competing with each other. They're all there sharing their vision, sharing their knowledge, and showcasing what they're working on and the cool things that are happening within the space. And I really like how all of you guys mentioned that blockchain is being validated there, and people are starting to implement it or show some way or form of blockchain, and that only further validates what we're doing. But let's pull it back a little bit, and I kind of want to talk about the things and reflect on the things that happened during quarter one, just to go over some of the stuff that we've been working on prior to GDC as well. Give a little information to the community on what we've been doing.
Yes, in terms of tech, yeah, we have a lot of exciting things coming up in the pipeline. We recently upgraded to 5.1 and Unreal Engine. This opens us a lot of doors with what Epic is trying to the tools and the maturity of the engine. So different things that we could try with the tech now, and so that was exciting. It was an endeavor that took us. We're actually able to do it pretty quickly. We were thinking it was going to take us like a couple of months, but it took us a couple of weeks. So that's a positive, a good reflection of how we've set up the engine. We've also been exploring different domains within the blockchain. We're trying to see what the foundation of the text look like for things like, what a potential reward system might look like, what a potential integration, being able to select your avatar will look like. And as people said, we're also looking into what AI might look like. So there's a lot of like a foundation work that is being done behind the scene. I'm not going to go too deep into the details because it could get boring and lots of zeros and ones. But yeah, just so you know, we that's the main focus for tech right now. Is how do we build the foundation to empower the design tool teams, our team to really bring all these things to life. So we're busy behind the work, and yeah, we see the fruit of our labor in the coming months.
Let's dive into the game direction and some of the game designs that we kind of did in Q1.
So what we did in the Q1 is, of course, we are developing on many fronts when it comes to game design and gameplay, like the game economy, the game loop. By game loop, I mean the session itself, the battle royale, also like pickups, health, ammo, weapons, etc. But at the core of our development is the cat locomotion or the cat movement. So this is very integral to our game. I will talk about it a little bit more later on, but just to give you a small update is something like cat locomotion, when it comes into a game, like a battle royale game, a shooter, because it's movement, and movement is actually what players do most of the time in their gameplay. It impacts the gameplay significantly, as you can imagine. So such a significant impact has to be handled carefully, not just by game mechanics, but also game content and level layout as well. The level layout has complement, and we have been experimenting on that end because this is something that is rather new in battle royale games. I mean, of course, there are other games that did extreme sorts of movement as well. But you always what your theme is, and in our case, these are cats and mechs built by cats, right? So depending on your theme, there are things that you need to consider, like cats are agile, they move around fast. Of course, we expect the mech to move around fast as well, but there's a balance to it. We don't want it fast and agile to a point where it's like very difficult to shoot people, right? And these are the things that we have been working in quarter.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Movement in video games, especially shooter games, is very important on, gameplay and how fun things can be. So if a game's like slow, or you don't, like the movement is restrictive, or there's not much verticality or versatility within the game, I kind of tend to get bored. So like Apex is like the slide canceling, there's bunny hopping, there's stuff like that. Valorant, there's dashes, all this stuff to enhance the game, make it more fun and enjoyable, and how the freedom of movement really helps in those types of games. Yeah, thank you for you guys' reflection on the Q1. It's like we did a lot of work, and I'm excited to see what's to come moving forward. Let's talk about some of those unique selling points about our game, and talk about cat-driven IP, the movement, the progression, as well as the blockchain from the design side of things from Haluk.
I will start with the cat because I finished it. So cat is at the center of our IP. It is a love letter to cats. And what this means for us is that we want the game and the gameplay to embrace the cat. Because, it's one thing to have something visually there. It's another thing to have the gameplay itself. And the cat plays the center role for our game, and it's our highest prioritized USP. And this can be reflected in another USP for us is the cat movement, the one that I just mentioned. Because if a fantasy that you're trying to sell to the player, if the world that you're trying to bring them into is not reflected in moment-to-moment gameplay, it diminishes in value, in my opinion. And that is why we put it like right at the center, starting with movement. It's the one that I can talk about the most right now, because that's what we've been working on heavily. Of course, it will be apparent in other parts of the game as well. But the movement itself, the cat movement, it's how we embody the cat IP in our moment-to-moment gameplay. in my opinion, if we were to omit this cat movement or the core gameplay of being a mech built by a cat, we would be just like a skin to another military shooter, like something run of the mill. And I think this is what really differentiates our game from many other shooters out there. And this is really what we are working on really hard right now. And the third USP is, of course, we are starting with Battle Royale as a game mode, and it's at the core of our competitive gameplay right now. But the thing is, we want to change the Battle Royale formula a little bit to fit with our world better, to fit with our mechs better. We want it to be a bit more fast-paced, but also our mechs in our setting, they are treated as sort of like an equipment, like a car. And you can think about it as like it's a racing car, right? You're in a competition with it, you're fighting with it, and we want the entire Battle Royale formula to be more sports-like in that regard. And in my opinion, like when the Battle Royale gets like really crowded, it can get really chaotic, and especially for the spectators, it can get really difficult to follow, but also for the players as well. And this is why we are trying to work on the Battle Royale formula a little bit, make it more compact, more progression-driven, gather elements like in-session progression elements from other genres like mobiles, for example, and but also have progression outside of the game that the player can bring into the game itself, into the game session, into the Battle Royale itself. Of course, this is something that needs to be tightly balanced because we don't want things turning into pay to win. We are well aware of that, and we want things to be fair in terms of competition, but we also want people to feel that they're progressing, not just themselves as a player, but also with their mechs, with their equipment, in their stature in the game, etc. And yeah, and the final point that ties, the final USP that ties into all of this progression and the mechs, the raising your stature is the blockchain ownership. And of course, we are a blockchain game. We do have blockchain deeply embedded to our economy, and we use it as a tech that enables us to do things that other financial or economic technologies cannot. And this is going to be reflected, of course, in our ownership of the NFTs, but also in how we are going to govern the gameplay itself and the competitions themselves. And the competitions are, in my opinion, they're the most important part of a competitive multiplayer game. It is competitive after all. And this is what we are working on, and this is what we hold dear to our hearts, that we give players a governing over the competitions themselves. And that is our final unique selling point.
Yeah, I agree with you. We don't want to be just like any other battle royale where it's just a military shooter. You drop in, you kill each other, the circle closes. We gotta differentiate ourselves somehow, and definitely by adding some unique like mobile like elements, some progression based elements within the game, as well as being unique at think yourselves as a cat. You're being a cat in this game. So cats are so unique. They have certain style. They're walking. They have their own attitude, their own aggression in real life, and hopefully that translates to our game. And I know it will. But yeah, exciting stuff to hear. And thank you so much for sharing some of the USPs within our game. But I'm pretty sure some people here would want to know. So what's going to be happening in Q2? What are some of our goals, and what can we kind of like expect? So if we could kind of get a preview of maybe some of the tech that we're going to be advancing on in Q2 from you, Gideon.
Sure thing. So so on the tech side, like I mentioned, we have done the updates to Unreal 5.1.1. And what this means for us is that we can now begin to look at the new tools that Epic is providing to really, really nail down our 3 Cs. So, as Lucas mentioned, one of our unique selling points is our unique cut locomotion. But this is very, it's not generic, right? So you can't just go to like the store and just buy some cats just run down the wall. So we have to kind of like build this locomotion system from scratch. So, this is one of the places where we want to focus our tech on. There's a lot of R&D that's going into it. There's a lot of experimentation. So we want to take it where we can reach the point where it feels very comfortable and very natural, right? So we just want to make sure that when the players playing it, they jump in, all these things come into place. One of the things that we're also working on is the networking, right? It's always a big challenge when you're doing multiplayer games. So we want to keep refining those network servers and make sure that people come in. There's very little wait times, there's very little lag, and you're playing at the most optimal speed. So a lot of optimization at the game level there. The other aspect too that we are beginning to further explore is the blockchain, right? So how do we make this blockchain experience very seamless? We recently did the wallet integration natively into the game, which was really great. So that means that when you're onboarded, you don't even like notice the experience. You don't have to like open a web browser or anything. It's just all within the game context. Just go in, the wallet is automatically created for you. Just get in and try to see how we can reduce the level of friction that players have to face when they're coming in. So we're going to keep exploring these areas and building onto it. Now, the most key thing for us here is that we want to focus on the game first. But we also want to make sure that we are also focusing on the blockchain enough that we can make that distinction between is the game first with the blockchain enhancing the meta experience. So that's one of the big things that we're doing here. So we are looking into okay, now we have a seamless wall integration. Well, then how can we actually have these elements like picking up your avatar or getting some rewards without impeding the fun that you get from the game? So these are the big tech foundation that we're using, and we also developing lots of tools that will make it very easy internally, which is sometimes overlooked. But internally, we develop lots of tools to make the work of the artists and the designers much easier. What this means is that we're going to get much quality assets, much quality game design that are coming through, and the players are the one that ultimately benefits from it, right? So when the internal team can quickly build a level, the art team can quickly build like high quality assets on a low running hardware, you guys are the winners. So that's kind of like what we're looking forward coming up.
Amazing. Yeah, like you said earlier, you're just further building up the foundation to make things easier in game development. Let's talk about some of the game direction from Haluk. How you're exploring different approaches to gameplay and map design coming into quarter two.
Yeah, now that we have proven our moment-to-moment gameplay proof of concept, that being the cat movement, we are going to be building on that, and we are gearing up towards the alpha at the end of the year. So what's going on there is that once you have a core concept like this proven to be working, you basically start building content around it and more meat around the bones. Like you increase the amount of actions available to the player, you add some depth to how they work, and you also build the content around it. And on the other side, we are trying to close the loop of Battle Royale, like I said, like I mentioned earlier. And we are building on our more or less final session of how it's going to play out. Of course, there's always going to be content implementations and improvements to it. Excuse me. But yeah, that's what we are working on right now. In terms of the level design and the map design, there are things to consider when we have something like cat movement. How skill-based do we want it to be, and how easy is it going to be employed? Is it going to be to employ it in combat, outside combat, to reach hard to reach places, and are there going to be any obstacles along the way? Are the buildings going to have flat surfaces? Are they going to have more organic geometry to them? And these are the things that we are working on and going to be working on for the next quarter.
Awesome! I can't wait to see that. And I'm gonna bounce it back to Nayef. So this is some exciting news as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll do you one better. We'll talk about the art director and even a couple key hires that are going on
Ooh.
right now. So yes, we've hired a new art director. His name is August Hansen. Really, really, really talented individual. He has a master's degree in graphic and interaction design from the Royal Danish Academy of Fine Arts in the School of Design. He's had over a decade of experience in the art director role and was actually the art director for Expeditions, the franchise of tactical RPGs. So happy to have August on our team. He's been really impactful from the start. Like he got here and just instantly started running. And we are currently exploring across the entire team our new art direction, our new art styles, and how that's going to flow all the way into the game, into the experience. So he shared some of his initial ideas with us, and he had everybody's heads nodding yes. So really, really excited to see what he comes up with there. But we have two other key hires that have happened more recently, maybe not as recent as August, but more recently that are really, really making an impact and making their presence felt across the studio. And the first one I would mention is our new head of security. And then the last key hire that I would talk about is Hua Deng. She is our new head of economy at the company, and she has been really integral in helping make sure that we are developing our economy in a sustainable way and has really contributed to our tokenomic structure and figuring out exactly how we can continue to make a sustainable game work on the blockchain as well. So, and she comes from PwC and was helping advise and consult world banks on their economic policy. So very, very, very talented, very intelligent people here on the team that we are so excited to have. And so, yeah, we're going to continue to add just major players to the team that can continue to make their impacts felt on a very quick basis.
Things are moving fast, but it sounded like we're building an amazing team. And
Yeah.
maybe you can give us a little glimpse at what the end of year alpha target is.
Yeah, so we kind of touched on it. Luke touched on it. I touched on it, which is we are planning on releasing our alpha in Q4 of this year. It's probably and likely going to come in December. So expect a December release. But leading up to that, we're going to have a lot of content happening. We're going to be releasing the mini games, and we're going to have a whole launch strategy around that as well. So that's what I think our community can expect from us this year.
Awesome. And just to lead up to that question, we're going to hop into some of the questions from our community. And I'm going to ride the coattails of what you just said. So someone asked, are you guys trying to find additional ways to increase the value of OG Nyan holders?
Yes, so good question. The answer is, of course, we're always looking to do that. So, but it's really a nuanced question. So we are confident that if we deliver our promise of building an amazing game, then the value of the Genesis Neons will increase. It's as simple as that. If we do our job, it'll increase. Since our inception, though, we've said that our goal was to build a game that was fun to play, supported our community, and delivered value to the players. And that continues to remain our focus. If we do our job well, that will be reflected in the value of the Genesis Neon NFTs. That said, there's already been value delivered to the Genesis holders who have already received their first NFT airdrop, which was the mech. So that would be the picture that you're seeing. All Gideon,
All
Haluk,
three of
and
you.
myself. Yeah, and then you have an OG Dirk. You have an Genesis Neon, whereas Haluk, Gideon, and myself all have the mech Neon. So that was one of the ways that we've delivered value so far. Additionally, we've posted the wallets that have qualified for a catnip airdrop once the catnip token launches. And we also just launched a new operating structure for our DAO that our DAO members got to vote on. So that's what's already happened. Now, in the future, Genesis holders will continue to receive value and benefits that are unique to them, including they get one more mech drop. They'll get access to alpha as well as our beta, and they'll get early access to that. They'll get early access to sales. And when the time is right, our DAO governance will eventually translate into being able to influence part of the game itself. So we're going to continue to always explore how we can reward the Genesis holders in an ongoing way, in addition to obviously value increases in the NFT. But we're thinking about them in a way of like a permanent Founders Edition pass, which would exist throughout the entire life of the Nyan Heroes game, and that pass would provide holders with access to Founder Edition packs, special skins, DLC content, maybe some loot box rewards. So we're definitely exploring ways that we can continue to add value above and beyond just the price of the NFTs. So yeah, we'll continue to give you first access to a lot of those packages and content releases for free. And that's how we continue to add value to the Genesis holders.
That's amazing. I'm pretty sure a lot of people just open their eyes, got little sparkles, excited for what's to come. But yeah, another question from the community is based on the GDC demo video. So, what are the difficulties in terms of bugs or character movements that our team is experiencing while producing the game? And maybe this is something that Gideon could answer.
Sure thing. Yes. So one of the challenges that we've been experiencing, especially, is the cat locomotion. That's all. Like we said, it's a new area. There's no really much precedent for it. So, most people might think Titanfall, but it's different, right? Because these guys are actually cats-like movement that is on it. So we've had to build the animation graph from scratch, and also have to deal with the network implication of having to make sure that it syncs up. So this is one of the areas of challenges. It's a bit unknown. So far, the team has done a good job of having the foundation in there, the basics are in there. Now it's a bit rough around the edges. So those are kind of like the feedback that we got. It could be more intuitive. So we're looking into things like the tuning up the controls, making the timing, giving much more freedom when you're actually on the wall, and most importantly, that any lag effect does not take away from the game. So you start running the wall and then you kind of like lag or desync, and that's something that we're really, really working hard on to improve it, and also making sure that people in different regions can have a smooth experience together, right? Because it's an international game, so obviously want everybody to be in the same region. But if you're not, it shouldn't be detrimental to the experience. So these are the key challenges that we're facing, especially in this area, and we're going to be doubling down on with the new update. That's really going to help with the new tools and pipeline. It's really going to improve it. So it's only going to get better.
Awesome. And yeah, shout out to the QA team finding those bugs and helping us smash those bugs out.
100%, 100%. Yeah, no, the QA team, yeah, lots of times, they are the unspoken heroes of game development. So
They
a
are.
big shout out to them because they work really hard, and if you build it, they'll break it, and that's what we need to be able to keep getting better. Yeah.
If you build it, they'll break it. But
Yes.
yeah, that's another question that attached onto this is the team still following the roadmap, and are there any delays? So maybe Nayef could answer that.
The team is still following the roadmap. As of right now, there are no delays. Uh, we are planning on releasing our Alpha Q4 this year. The mini games leading up to that, the roadmap on our website does reflect that and has reflected that. So we're still on time. But again, I just want to remind everybody that game development is iterative, right? It's not a linear process. There's a lot of things that happen along the way, a lot of pivots, a lot of reframes, a lot of reworking and discovering and improving. And that is the process of developing a brand new IP from scratch. So we are currently planning on releasing in Q4 of this year our alpha. We've committed to that with everybody from our community to our investors to potential partners. So as of right now, it's all systems go for that, and we have a very high level of confidence that we should be able to hit it.
Oh, yeah, thank you for answering the question. And yeah, just to run off of that, I see sometimes people go like, yo, where's the game? When's the game? When can we test it? But I just want to reiterate that this is game development. It's not like we're just making some cookie clicker or some small game. In development, things move and change all the time, and this is the long game we're playing. We want to make something great, something that will last a very long time, something that's recognizable, and something that you guys are a part of since the beginning, and know that this is gonna be the next big thing. But with that being said, those are the questions from the community. But I'd like to open the floor up to you guys. So if anyone has any questions, we're gonna take a question from each person. So if you want to ask your question, go ahead and raise your hand.
Oh, we got a hand raised.
Hi, I'm doing fine. How are you guys?
Doing great. Thank you for asking.
Nayef said that we are getting mini games, like features or game modes from the game itself. So is this gonna replace the pre-alpha that was supposed to be in Q3, or is there still gonna be a separate pre-alpha for specific members?
So we are still looking at doing a Q3 pre-alpha. Great question. We have not decided how that will be released or to whom. It's really going to be based on our development needs, our capacity for handling all of the players joining on the servers. So there's a lot of technical limitations that I'm sure Gideon can chat about that. But we are still doing our early alpha in Q3 to select individuals, and then the what we're calling our public alpha, but the public alpha is really released to our Genesis Neon holders, and that'll be in Q4. Good question, though.
Yeah,
Keeping us accountable. Keeping us accountable. I like that one,
Yeah.
really.
the and the specifics for the mini game, I know it's gonna be announced later on, but is it entirely for the Genesis holders, or does the mech holders also be able to participate in it?
So good question. So we had an opening when we did our mech drop. We connected with our DAO. We had some conversations about being able to provide mech holders with some benefits, and they won't be to the extent of the Genesis holders. But they do. We do want to bring them into our DAO. We do want to bring them into our early access testing, and we do want to give them definitely some access to the game before it gets released to people who don't are not owners or are not holders. So yeah, we will be looking at what rights and what benefits that we can give to the mech holders because they are a valuable part of our community, and including them benefits everyone, including them and including us. So for us, it's just a matter of finding the way to make it happen and making sure that we do it correctly through the DAO and through our community, and making sure that it's supported across the board. But I see no reason why it shouldn't be.
Okay, thanks for answering.
Thanks for
Absolutely.
hopping up, Willie. I think we can wrap things up now. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming and joining us on this April Town Hall. I'd like to thank everyone listening in, as well as our speakers, Nayef, Gideon, and Haluk. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and your thoughts on what happened during Q1, your experiences at GDC, as well as a glimpse into what's going to be happening in Q2, as well as towards the end of the year. So I hope everyone is excited as I am for the mini games and the alpha coming, and really appreciate everyone and can't wait to join you in our game. And I'll see you guys in the next town hall. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure. Yes, thanks for everyone.